Yes, it's me, the Kid JB. For those that know me from the Bucketup podcast, to broadcasting football, to reviewing Bloody Marys, after too many strangers telling me, you're funny, you should have your own show, I'm doing just that. Welcome to my digital sandbox, the I Don't Know Show. Welcome back to the digital sandbox that is the I Don't Know Show. My safety net where I feel good, where I feel good about meeting people, talking about what they do and how they got about doing that such thing. We got a guest today in the building, in another building, as I like to say. Super excited, man. I talk about the internet, how it brings people together. Definitely unites people when it comes to communities, sports, music, tattoos, bodybuilding, whatever. Today, we're bringing it back to episode 1 when I talked about sports, because this guy is heavy in it too. So simply put, man, let's bring him to the show. He goes by the Angry Degenerate. If you've caught some of his videos, you probably put your volume a little down because he likes to get noisy, and I appreciate that. But we'll get to the meat and potatoes. Bring him on, the Angry Degenerate, my man Mike Alexandre. Come on in.
What's up, y'all? Happy to be on. Thank you, Jesse.
Of course, man. Appreciate you taking time out of your day, as I always talk about when it comes to booking guests, doing a podcast. It is a grind, man. It's not all fun and, rainbows and all that, but there's a communication component of it. So up front, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day and, chopping it up with me. I heard behind the scenes you got, a little kid, you got daddy duties and, a full-time schedule, of course. So again, thank you. But simply put, man, I came across your pages, your page, and some of your content naturally, man. That's the cool thing about the internet is sometimes things come your way and you can't control it. You were all over talking and screaming about your California sports teams that you love. And I love seeing that because I, as a New Yorker, am very, loud and obnoxious and very opinionated about my sports teams. So I imagine you've turned some heads in the positive and the negative, but simply put, man, when did you start getting on the internet and talking sports, I'd say in capital letters?
I think I've always felt that I was meant to do this, but I just never pulled the trigger. And what prompted me to pull the trigger was just like everybody else during the pandemic. Everybody stuck at home, didn't have anything to do in their lives, kind of depressed, getting fat, whatever. And I said, you know what? I need to do something. I need to follow a purpose. I need to follow a plan. I need to follow the plan that was set out for me. And I was like, you know what? I have these hot takes all the time. I shoot the shit with my friends. Why not put that information in video form on TikTok, on YouTube, on IG, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought I concocted this name kind of like a gimmick. Think of a wrestling gimmick, for example. On my day-to-day life, I'm Michael Alexandre, the event manager, et cetera, extraordinaire. But on my private time, I'm the Angry Degenerate who talks about sports angrily, loudly, passionately, no filter. It's always been who I am as a person, and I just bring it into my content creation. I feel like you need to be yourself. You need to be authentic when you're doing this stuff, and I think that's what I bring to the table for sure.
Awesome, man. I agree with the authenticity part, something we preach on the show. I feel like when it comes to content creation, when you balance that line of, like you were saying, playing a character versus playing yourself, there's two folds to it. When I see somebody playing a character that's trying to sell it as if it's reality, it's a little cringy to me. But then in reverse, I like the authenticity when the character kind of seems like it is something that translates in your everyday life. So I've never hung out with you, in person, but I imagine when you're watching your teams, some of the things you say on camera are things that you say at the television, right? And you're like, oh, I got to use that. So take me to, when did you start getting into sports? Did you have a sports background? Did you play anything? I know, Cali bred. So has it been Cali your whole life? I mean, you know how I get on people that flip flop on teams. Have you been loyal to your squad ever since day one? Like, bring me through that, like the origin.
Man, I'll start you off all the way at the beginning. I mean, I grew up in a kind of lower middle class family. Didn't have cable growing up, so I was really stuck to watching uh, the Giants on local television, the A's baseball on local television. But then I had this next door neighbor, this older gentleman, about 75 at the time. I'm like in second, third grade, mind you. I didn't get cable till middle school age. So I would go over, start reading the newspaper, the box scores, old school stuff. And just, he had cable, so I'd start watching TBS, the Atlanta Braves. And, uh, and yeah, that's what really started my passion about sports. Being very statistical minded. It, it, it amazes me sometimes the little small details of things that I remember, stats that I remember about sports from way back when, but I can't even remember what I did yesterday, man. I mean, it's just really weird. But I've always been loyal to my teams. I'm talking about the Giants baseball, uh, the 49ers in football, dating back to I never got to see Joe Montana. I saw the latter years of Steve Young, um, but I never got to see the 49ers win those Super Bowls, So I'm still in that stage of like I'm waiting. We're almost there, but we're not there yet. And it's beating me down year by year. um, but no, man, I've always been loyal to my teams. Always been the way I am, very opinionated about things, and I'm like this in my personal life, and it translates, like you said, into my content and all that stuff. I'm usually very loud. I think it's the Portuguese nature in me. We're just loud people. We like to be heard. Uh, and yeah, man, my passions about sports really started back in like second or third grade when I went to go visit old Mr. Hernandez's house and just reading box scores and watching Barry Bonds chase that home run record and all that stuff. So it was great.
Appreciate, yeah. I mean, again, that sounds organic and authentic, and that's what I strive for. You know, keep it clear. He's talking San Francisco Giants, not New York Giants. That's my
Yeah,
that's my avenue. You know, if we can take it to the history books, that they started in New York, and that's why they moved to San Francisco upon the expansion of the Dodgers. You know what I'm saying? They had to make it even. But
that's right.
I digress. When you cover your sports content, obviously there's things that are, it's like push and pull technology. I'd say the push technology is that you're pushing content, things that are kind of unseen or maybe a caveat or a dynamic that people are not looking at, so you're pushing it out there. The pull technology or the pull dynamic, I'm thinking, is like content that people are already moving around and you're just pulling it to your desk and then you're kind of touching a spin on it. So for example, the Johnny Manziel sports documentary right now is hot. So it's like, if you comment on it, it's a pull. But then if you're talking about, oh, I found out what, his cousin did in high school, that's kind of the pushing out, right? Is there sports, like stories that you kind of long for and that you want to cover? Or are you open to like, whatever kind of hits your desk?
I'm kind of open for everything, man. If you look at my content, I've discussed everything from football, baseball, Olympics. I've talked about tennis. I've talked about soccer. I'm a huge soccer fan, man. Or football, if you want to be technical about that. But yeah, man, I'll take anything. In fact, I probably could have grown more as a content creator if I just kind of stuck to what everybody's talking about, right? Like you just brought up Johnny Manziel. Maybe I should be making content about that Johnny Manziel documentary. Doesn't interest me as much. I like to talk about stuff that interests me because at the end of the day, I'm doing this for myself. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing this for myself. It's like a therapy session for me.
I
and
respect
so
that.
and so I want to talk about stuff that I like, and I'm glad that people actually enjoy the opinions that I do have, and a lot of people do disagree, which I don't mind. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just in the business of making people feel something, whether it's a disagreement, whether it's an agreement, whether just a reaction, eliciting a reaction, whether positive or negative. I just want to start conversation. That's at the end of the day my goal.
I like that, man. As somebody that speaks to the universe and the people within it, I definitely understand. That's kind of how we got involved. With I had a comedian on my other podcast talking about how as we evolve, man, there's sports media coverage on things that don't pertain to your team, right? So it doesn't really, like you said, hit a nerve up or down. It exists. So for me, being outside looking in when it comes to Cali teams, when you're talking about something that's, about Jimmy Garoppolo or a quarterback that, a player that went to and from, the Niners to the Raiders or from, wherever. To me, I can look at it as like a objective lens and be like, yeah, he's passionate about this. I don't care. But, he's passionate about it. The Giants have their own issues. You know what I'm saying? Yankees have their own. All these teams have their own issues. Kind of similar to comedy where there's bathroom humor. There's people that do like fart jokes. There's people that do like degenerate jokes that do like, Larry the Cable Guy stuff. And if just because you're not a fan of it doesn't mean that what they're doing is not effective, right? So has there been some things that you've tried throughout your, expansion of your venting, as I call it? Has there been little like spin-offs that you've tried, maybe like brought it to the grocery store, or have you vented about traffic? Or has it been strictly sports?
My content, I really like to keep it centric on sports for the most part. I kind of just that's the way it started. I haven't ventured off into like what you said, talking about traffic, talking about politics, for example, hot button issues. I want to steer clear of that, all that stuff, religion. Don't do that. Don't touch that. Um, I just I just want to keep it on sports because I think that's just a universal quality that most of my audience likes to see or hear me talk about. Um, I have ventured off and, like I said, and talked about different sports out of the usual. Like I said, I've talked about soccer before, right? PSG, Messi, Inter Miami, all this stuff, Cristiano Ronaldo. But at the end of the day, what I've seen, ultimately, you have to follow the numbers and what people actually do like. And I have just seen, ultimately, what people do like is the king of all sports here in America, football. Football is king. I've seen when you talk about football, that's what brings in the most views, the most talking points, the most comments, the most likes, the most dislikes. Um, so at the end of the day, I mean, you got to give the people what they want a little bit, right? I did say that, I'm doing this for me, but at the end of the day, I'm also doing it for the people in a way because uh, I'm preaching to what they want to hear. Not to say that I'm going to say what they want to hear, but if they want, if my metrics are saying, your football content is through the roof comparatively to you talking about Carlos Rodon to at the Yankees, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, and then I'm going to talk about football, right?
yeah.
So
That's fair.
that's just the way I kind of look at things.
Also, yeah, and then to give you, to defend, like you said, your the statement about you do it for you. In defense, you love football yourself, so it's not like you're strictly going back on your and saying, "Oh no, I'm just listening to the audience." Like you enjoy doing the football stuff too, so it's not like you cringe and be like, "Ah, they want me to do a
Right.
football thing again." So I feel that, bro. You touched on dislikes. I definitely am somebody that used to live for the smoke, bro. When I first got into this game, I felt like the first person I could like get a negative response to or have them getting their feelings, then I won, right? My ego was crazy big. Tell me about some of the interactions you've had that maybe have gone south, some back and forths, and or completely you're not in your intention, man. Because I've had times. Luckily, me and you vibe well, but there's been times, bro. I've told about the pod where like I've said a joke. If it's a bodybuilder, I've made a joke about like their form, or I've said something about their clothing or something, and boy, oh boy, they don't like that. You know what I'm saying? So tell me some of the smoke you've had.
You know, it amazes me how much people hate watch in this world. Like me personally, if I hate something, I'm not gonna watch it. There's a lot of people out there, so shocked to nobody, that dislike what I say or do. And I mean, I've gotten a couple death threats. a couple of, hey, I know that you're in the Bay. If I see you in this location, it's
It's
on
on
site. That
site.
type of thing, right? And it's like, I'm like, really? I'm just over here talking about sports. I'm not talking about your family. I'm not going personal. I'm just spitting facts here. I'm just saying, for example, your fucking Raiders football team is a garbage team. If you don't like the reality of that, then that's a you problem. That's not a me problem.
Move to
But
Vegas. You know what I'm saying? Nah.
exactly. So yeah, man. There's a lot of people out there that hate watch. I've gotten some death threats. I've gotten some like messages in my DMs of like, you better watch your back, this type of bullshit. But for the most part, I'd say a lot of the audience is like, I'd say 96% uh, uh, normal banter, or like whatever. But you get that 3-4% that is just like miserable at home and fucking in mom's basement, and they're just pissed off at life, so they want to take it out on somebody that they disagree with. And I'm that guy, and I'm totally fine to be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's it comes with the territory. It's sports at the end of the day, which is kind of cool, man. I do appreciate the ability to remove yourself from things that are just that layers, right? We look at sports. I personally, as a kid, I used to think it was my identity, but like you said, structures. Like when I was a kid, I didn't have much going on, so like it was okay for me to think like these athletes were my superheroes and like they were my savior for my boredom of school or whatever. But then as I get older, I'm like, oh, these are just grown men that work. Then luckily, they play football for their job. That's cool. Like, what extent do I care about a grown man's job? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, very little. So there's territorial things. I talked about on episode 1 of the show about sports identity and being removed from this ego that like your sports team is you, right? Have you found like a difficulty or no, I'm saying like, I guess I've noticed that you're able to remove yourself from the character of the Angry Degenerate. You know what I'm saying? How do you balance that? Because when you do your content, you're diving all in like 100% as if like you truly feel this stuff. But, maybe it's just the content creator in me. I can see it. But like you also have this caveat on like you're putting a performance on, right? So I guess what's that balance like?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a fine line you got to play, right? Because everybody wants me to be the angry degenerate, but sometimes you got to bring the real life person into the content creation as well. I think I just made, I've made a lot of posts in the past, shitting on the Lakers and LeBron James, right? Nothing personal against LeBron, but you know, uh, just recently, obviously the thing that happened with his son, I made like a heartfelt post or whatever because I truly did mean that. It's like, bro, like sports is sports, but a kid is a kid and a father is a father, and people that were going out there and making weird jokes or comments about LeBron and his son, I was like, bro, wrong place, wrong time. Like, you
Yeah.
cannot do that. There's a certain level that you can't pass, I'd say, right?
Right.
Um and, and there's people out there that just don't have a fine line, and that works for them. I also want to bring a human element to my content. I'm not just a fucking robot, or I'm just not just like this gimmick character, kind of wrestling style character. At the end of the day, I'm a person. I'm not a gimmick, and you need to bring some realism to what's going on in certain situations. And I'll say this too: there's a lot of content creators out there that are very much so on the homer side of things. Like, see guys out there who post Raider related content, and they're Raider homers to the death, to the death. Same thing with the Niner, just any fan base, right?
Yeah.
To me, one thing that I pride myself on is being true to what's happening. I'm a fan at the end of the day, but I'm also a realist, and I like to give the non-homer opinion. And that's made me some enemies within the 49er community or the Giants community or whatever fan bases that I'm, loyal to. Um, People just sometimes want to hear what they want to hear, and they don't like the realism being told to them. And so I like to bring that perspective of, I'm a fan, but this also happened, and this is the reality of the situation without the rose-colored tinted glasses.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I definitely see spins on, you know, Hard Knocks, the New York Jets, man. Their media coverage left and right. I found it a little ironic Aaron Rodgers is one that doesn't like media. Then he goes to the number one media market. I think that's kind of funny. But like you were getting at earlier, was talking about how like there's some lines not to be crossed, and like there's some human aspect to it. So like as I get older, work with college athletes. You know, I've talked to professional athletes and stuff, and like understand that if they dropped a pass or if they had a bad game, like that clearly wasn't their intention, right? So to like hammer on the fact that like, oh wow, you're feeling bad, let me make it worse, you know? There is a caveat though that there's territory. So they know that they're coming into a dynamic that people talk about, right? If you're a musician, people are gonna, criticize your music. If you're a chef, people are gonna say, "Oh, I don't really like sweet potatoes," even though it's a great dish or whatever it is, I think a big part of that is like having that like that humility aspect, man. Is there people in your life that kind of encourage you organically? Do you have a good support system, I'd say, behind you?
I'd say I do. I have friends out there that kind of, I sometimes I'll be honest, I get down on myself in terms of just the day to day grind of doing content creation because it is a grind sometimes, and sometimes I'll take breaks. Like I said, I think I could be much more far along if I just followed a regiment system. We could also say that about a lot of things like going to the gym and all that stuff,
Yeah.
diet, whatever. But yeah, man, I have a good support system. I got buddies out there that are like, "Hey, bro, are you gonna talk about this? Are you gonna talk about this?" Like they actually genuinely want to see the content that I produce because they think I'm really good at it, which I do appreciate because these are people that I've vibed with my entire life, my family, and great support system as well. And so I'm just very blessed that people support me in what I am doing, and they think that I could take it way further than what I'm doing at the moment. I mean, you're doing great stuff right here with this podcast. I was doing a podcast for a bit, for about a year and a half, and I kind of just out of nowhere just was like, you know what, I'm going to take a break. And that break turned into about a long break. And I'm just starting to get back into it and trying to build up my content on social media so then I can kind of then start once again afresh as the Angry Degenerate podcast and kind of begin this new cycle of starting anew of sorts. I can't wait to get back on it, and I have the support of everybody around me. So I stay tuned for that. I guess that's like a preview teaser, but I'll be doing podcasts sometime later this year.
Awesome, man. We'll definitely look for it. I was gonna ask you, what are kind of the goals of the Angry Degenerate? I will say, like, what's funny, man, getting back to the human side of it, and like, removing all the negativity or just like the characteristics of just being a character. I have a lot of like t-shirts that I wear, hats. They just got like one line or a quote or something. One of the hats I got, it says it's the Friends logo, but it says enemies. You know what I'm saying? And my mom was like, "Don't you think that's putting off a bad vibe?" Like my mom's really with that. So I was like, "No," because within I'm solid, right? So I know the term degenerate sounds negative. The term angry degenerate is like a negative connotation, but like, I guess, how do you spin it positively within?
Uh, that's a good question, man. I I think that when people look at my content, they do like what you mentioned earlier. They do see like the gimmick side of it, but I think they also see the realism side of it. They say that I'm not just a freaking robot and that I'm not just angry all the time because not every post I make is angry. The whole angry degenerate concept just came about because I was like, you know what, I'm there's I gamble. I gamble a lot. Sports gambling. That's a little bit of a degeneracy. Let's turn that and then let's spin that into like, okay, that's a degenerate mindset, but then let's also incorporate some takes, but let's incorporate those takes with some gusto behind it or some not necessarily anger, but let's with some passion behind it. And just the name Angry Degenerate to me just freaking worked. And in terms of the positivity of it, I don't know, man. I think most people, like I said, kind of see me for what I am and what I do, and whether they like it, they like it, and whether they don't, then they don't, and I don't lose any sleep over it. I wear this shirt all the time. It's a Razor Ramon shirt. It says "Bad guys live forever." Um,
Rest in peace.
I love, yeah, that's right. I love to, I absolutely, I love to play the devil's advocate character. That's always been me my entire life, in my personal basis, in my job, here at home as the Angry Degenerate, and I think it's worked out well for me. And so I'm just gonna continue to be me, man. Bad guys live forever.
I love it, man. I appreciate that. Well, before we get you out of here, bro, obviously I'm a sports guy, so a large portion of my audience. What are some hot takes, man? We got football coming up. The Yankees are garbage. You know what I'm saying? To lay off them, but like, yeah, with some football takes. You know, talk about LeBron James's son. Is he going to be something? What do you got? What's in the vault?
Man, I think hot take number one is, I think this, and this is, I just went back to saying that I'm not a homer, but if the year is the year to win the Super Bowl, it has to be this year for the San Francisco 49ers. If they do not win the Super Bowl this year, then I do think that this is going to turn very sour very quickly, because they have a lot of big price contracts coming up, and you got to pay the piper eventually. And I don't know, man. There's this feeling within 49er land that a lot of Niner fans are like, "This is our year. This is our year." I don't know, man. Is I'm not quite sure we can trust Brock Purdy's arm yet. I'm in the see it to believe it phase of this time frame, and so my hot take at the moment is I'm not super convinced that the 49ers are going to be the 49ers that we saw last year. I think last year a lot of things went very right until they went very wrong in the NFC title game. And
Yeah, it went through like 5 quarterbacks or something.
Five quarterbacks. Yeah, you're right. Don't remind me about that one. Um, and you know what? Another hot take here and is, I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be very, very good this year. I don't know if they're going to win the division good, but I can see this being the year where they possibly break that streak and finally make it to an NFC title game. I think that defense is legit. And to be honest, they should have beat the 49ers at Levi's Stadium last year if it wasn't for a couple Dak Prescott mistakes. Now he needs to keep those mistakes away, but if he can limit those mistakes, that defense is a monster, man, and they just need a game manager to freaking take them to the promised land, to be honest with you. And I hate to
Yeah.
say that, by the way, because I fucking hate the Cowboys and their
I
stupid smooth brain fans. But um, but
fuck that
I do
star,
see
bro.
value in. Yeah, I do see. I do think that team is going to be on the rise this year. Uh, I'm not quite sure if I trust Mike McCarthy to take them that far, but I think that defense is going to be legit. Injury pending, of course. Um, I'm trying to think what else. What else do I got in the wheelhouse here? Um,
Basketball. Are you a Golden State fan?
ah, That's a good one. So I used to be a huge Golden State Warriors fan. I'm talking about like when they were winning 15, 16 games with Donald Foyle, Vonteego Cummings, all these like Larry Hughes. I mean, Antoine Jameson, way back in the days, not even the We Believe years. And I was a huge fan. And then all of a sudden they started becoming very good, So then they started getting these fans that are very, very, very obnoxious, super obnoxious. So me being the contrarian, I was like, you know what, fuck these guys. so, so, I'll tell you what, I'm a huge fan of Steph, Clay, and the entire crew there. But god damn, there's not a much more obnoxious fan base than the Golden State Warriors. But here's my hot take. I do not think that they are going to go back to the promised land like everybody is expecting with this Chris Paul trade and et cetera, et cetera. It's a pretty old team, man. It's an old team. And it's just very hard to get all those guys to be healthy at the same time. So all the Warrior fans out there who are thinking, hey, we had a bad year and we're just going to get right back to it, I don't know. If anything has taught us in our lives is that father time is comes to all, whether it's this year, whether it's next year. But I don't think the Warriors are going to be what people expect them to be this year. I think they're going to fall just short of people's expectations.
Fair enough, man. I checked all boxes. I definitely don't have the Cowboys going as far as you do, but that's, the beauty of it. I definitely have my bias in there, and that's the beauty of it as well, man. Well, I'm with those takes, bro. Obviously the cool thing about the internet, it's forever. So, we'll check receipts. Maybe we can play this back at the end of the season. We'll see if, the Angry Degenerate is the Angry Degenerate Miss Cleo, you know what I'm saying? And predicted it as well.
You know what? I've been wrong before. I don't have a problem being wrong. I've also been right before. I definitely don't have a problem being right. So I'll if I'm wrong, take it to the cleaners. I'm okay with being wrong.
I'm with that, man. That's what I say. I missed the told you so, because even when I'm not right, I told you so. But hey, appreciate you coming on, man. Before you sign off, short-term goals. We want you to get back on the podcast world. I got an episode dropping talking about, I think everyone should be podcasting out there or creating content long form. I kind of think it's like an email signature now. It used to be like, exclusive podcast. I feel like people got voices. They got things to say, give it out there. But yeah, some short-term, long-term goals, and then we'll get you out of here, bro.
Yeah, you just said it. Long-term goals is to, restart this podcast. I'm trying to, this garage that I'm in at the moment, I'm trying to turn it into this mini podcast studio of mine. My goal is to eventually pick that back up sometime during the football season. Short-term goals is just, man, I just need to be consistent and constantly grow my base, so to speak. Whether it be through IG, Threads, Twitter, TikTok, God knows what. Even
X.
if it's in the local community, just put in X, whatever. Just putting my sticker up at random places. Just, man, becoming what I like to say is become a global phenomenon. So that's the goal, man. I just I think I'm pretty damn good at what I do. I'm pretty damn good with my opinions. I think I bring a level of authenticity to things that I think sometimes when you look at content creators or just people on television, Skip Baylesses of the world, Stephen A. Smiths, you can see through all that shit. It's all fake. They're doing it to be a character. And it's rich coming from somebody that's called the Angry Degenerate. But, this is, the Angry Degenerate is truly me and what I am in my life. So this is authenticity at its finest. So what I'm saying is what I mean. I'm not lying to you. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. But at the end of the day, I'm going to show up every damn day and I'm going to tell you what I think. And ultimately, if we have the platform to do it, why not? And my goal is just to continue doing what I'm doing.
Great to hear, man. Well, he's the Angry Degenerate. I was happy to have him on. You know what I'm saying? He was able to explain what he does in many avenues. And again, thank you for taking time out of your day, bro. I know my man, little man sleeping, father of the year over here. And, you know what I'm saying? You got some sports news. The way the news cycle moves so fast, we probably missed like 5 stories by the time we did it. You know what I'm saying? So, go get your homework in, go drink some tea, get your voice ready for your next venting. You know what I'm saying? But, beer, my bad. Yeah, he's keep it real, bro. But nah, again, man, he's the Angry Degenerate on Instagram as the Angry Degenerate, correct?
That's correct.
All right, man. Well, follow him and continue to tap in with us every week because I'm the Kid JB, the host of the I Don't Know Show. This has been episode 19. We in the books and on to better and bigger things. Catch you.